Apparently, YouTube is trying to kill NBA content on its platform in favor of some more mainstream media places, YouTube channels, you know what I mean. So if y'all could drop a like on this video to try and combat that, I would really appreciate it. And if you haven't been subscribed already, click the subscribe button if you enjoy NBA content. But anyways, the Warriors. Yikes. To open the season, the Dubs were blown out by the Clippers by 19, and it was a lot worse than 19 for most of the game, and they were blown out by a much worse team in the OKC Thunder, losing by 28. And they are losing on both ends of the court. Versus the Clippers, they gave up 140, and against the Thunder, they only put up 92 points. They did pull out a win versus the Zion-less Pelicans, winning by 9 points, but that happened after I wrote most of this script, and I don't really want to go rewrite everything, so yeah. So they're struggling on offense and especially struggling on defense. Over 2 games, they are giving up 130 points per game. Now, the Clippers do make sense, but losing by that much to the OKC Thunder makes no sense at all. They should be no more than average on offense, and yet they killed the Warriors. Currently, the Charlotte Hornets are off to a better start than the Golden State Warriors. Now, I am fully aware that's because they beat my Bulls, but we don't need to talk about that, and you better not comment it down below. But the point is, the Warriors seem like they might suck, and I'm curious if the Warriors as they are now could eventually become a championship team in the future, or is it just all over? It's definitely worth mentioning that I have been very wrong about this team. I predicted them to be a 5 seed or something close to it, and I expected Steph Curry to be in the MVP discussion. I even picked him to win MVP this year. But it does not seem like that is going to happen. It's also worth mentioning, and I'm sure many Warriors fans feel this way, that this is really just growing pains, especially regarding D'Angelo Russell. He's only averaged 17 and 6 on 36% shooting. I don't expect that poor of a performance to continue, especially with the offense adapting to his game. D'Lo has a very simple offensive game based on the spread pick and roll. The Warriors have a motion offense with limited pick and rolls, often too limited, and because of that, D'Lo's natural game conflicts with the Warriors system, and there is also both Kevon Looney and Willie Cauley-Stein being out, leading to freaking Marquise Chris being their starting center. And Alec Burks, who I believe can be the leading scorer off of this team's bench, has not played yet. So yeah, this team is far from its full strength. But even if Steph averaged 35 points a game and D'Lo averaged 25 points a game, where are those other 50 to 60 points coming from on this team? Maybe 10 from Draymond, 7 or so from both Stein and Looney, and then Jordan Poole or Alec Burks could fill in some scoring as well. So maybe the struggle offensively won't be huge, especially when you have the gravity of Stephen Curry, but what about defense? Curry is a really good team defender, but he's a bad one-on-one defender. D'Angelo Russell is just a bad defender, period. There's no getting around that. Glenn Robinson III is really neither a plus nor minus defensively. Draymond Green is obviously a great team defender. Willie Cauley-Stein can block shots, but he's not great on the perimeter. Off the bench, Looney is actually a great overall defender. For a slow-footed guy, he has the discipline to stick with perimeter players. He's famously come out on top taking on James Harden one-on-one. But overall, this defense cannot be any better than top 15, and that's probably being generous. So the Warriors actually may struggle to make the playoffs in the deep Western Conference. If Klay Thompson was here, yeah, he'd be the difference maker, and I'd have no doubts about them making the playoffs, but he's out for the year. Steph, D'Lo, and Draymond might not be enough. Hopefully Steve Kerr's wrong and he could actually come back for the last 15 or so games, but it's not looking likely. And also one last thing before I talk in depth about the future of this team. No, Curry missing the playoffs with this team would not make him overrated. And it sure as fuck would not make Russell Westbrook a better player just because he took a bad team to the playoffs in 2017. Bad offensive team, might I point out. For one thing, the West is just objectively deeper and more talented than it was in 2017, and more importantly, everything that happened in Golden State happened because of Steph Curry. You'd have to be blind not to see that. I saw some ridiculous take the other day saying that the Warriors could have repeated what they accomplished with Kemba Walker instead of Steph Curry. You can fuck off with that. And one more thing, this whole point was laid out beautifully by B-Souls in his most recent video, but I do want to say my own version of it. I'll take a guy who can elevate a good team into a contender but can't carry a team to the playoffs over a guy that can carry a team to the playoffs but ends up holding back his team because of the stupid shit that he does. But like I said, B-Souls made a whole video tackling that narrative as well as all of the other BS around Curry's name right now, so go give it a watch. And don't worry, Russ fans, I'm going to be saving my point guard slander this year for Terry Rozier. Your guy is going to be safe. He's actually playing pretty damn good right now, so that helps. But anyways, with that out of the way, can this Warriors team ever win a championship again? And no, the question is not, can this current team win a championship? Because no, they cannot. But what are some realistic, not otherworldly moves that the Warriors can make to become a contender again? Well, let's give this roster a hard look. Steph is dope. We don't need to talk about him. The interesting guy on this team is D'Angelo Russell. An interesting thing about D'Lo is that really the only thing that separates him from James Harden is some size and an ability to finish inside and draw fouls. If he had that, he could be a top 10 player in the NBA. Unfortunately, D'Lo scores almost exclusively on jump shots and floaters, no hard drives for him. He also shies away from contact. He shot fucking 2.5 free throws a game last year. That is insane. Outside of Kyrie Irving, CJ McCollum, Klay Thompson, and Drew Holiday, everyone who averaged 20 a game last year shot more than double 2.5 free throws a game. So if D'Lo just learned how to play through contact and draw fouls, he could really elevate his game. To be fair though, some of those issues stem from D'Lo's lack of athleticism and size. He's a below the rim athlete with average quickness at best, so he does lack the burst, size, and hang time to finish with the best of them in the league. But still, 2.5 free throws a game is pretty pathetic. His efficiency overall really struggles because of this. If you're taking almost exclusively jump shots, your efficiency as an overall scorer will struggle, especially as a lead ball handler. Luckily, this is the Warriors, and they do love jump shots, but I do think he's going to need to adapt his game a bit to fit here. He needs to be able to be more of an off-ball player, figure out how to score consistently outside of just pick and rolls. I don't doubt his ability to fit offensively. The issue comes with defense. I don't think you can be a top 10 defensive team in the league with Steph Curry and D'Lo as your backcourt, so odds are the Warriors are going to have to trade D'Angelo Russell. But let's move on. Within the next year, Klay will be back, and Klay is Klay. And I don't need to say more about that. Draymond is interesting. I've never been able to quite put my finger on how good I actually think Draymond is. He is obviously a great defender, specifically a great team defender. I would argue the best team defender of all time. Also very versatile. His offensive game, while limited by a lack of a jumper, is still good. He is a fantastic playmaker and a good rebounder. Out of the pick and roll, he's great at making the extra pass to a big man for the lob or an open shooter. The problem lies with the fact that he's gotten worse and worse every year. There's an argument to be made that since Durant is now gone, Draymond could go back to his 2016 self, but I don't think the best scorer in the NBA joining this team, making offense and open looks even more common for Draymond, but I don't think the best scorer in the NBA joining this team, generating more open looks for Draymond, is the reason that his jump shot has fallen off a cliff. He's a guy that tends to take the regular season off, at least he has for the last 2 years, and focus just on becoming a good player in the playoffs. But as the Warriors move from dynasty to just a contender, he can't really afford to do that. They don't have that luxury anymore. Other than that, Willie is alright. His defense overall is overrated, and offensively, he's a run, jump, and dunk guy who can sometimes hit a mid-range jumper, but I actually think that Kevon Looney is better. He's not the athlete or the rim protector, but he's a better defender overall, much more versatile, has a high defensive IQ. Offensively, he is pretty much the same. He just can't jump quite as high on those alley-oops. And besides for that, Jordan Poole has some potential, and that's about it. As I said, this roster is not a title contender right now, but what can they do with what they have to become one within the next couple of years? Well, they could copy my Warriors rebuild exactly. I felt that I did pretty good on that one, but for real, Drummond for D'Lo makes a lot of sense. At least to me. My logic on that one is, imagine having to not only stop the best shooter in the NBA from hitting a three-pointer, but after you make him miss, you have to stop the best offensive rebounder in the game from grabbing the rebound. But as of now, I don't know if that's a great move without Klay Thompson back, because you're going to need D'Angelo Russell's scoring, maybe a sign and trade in the offseason. Another option is filling out the bench with a bunch of role players and trying to repeat the 2015 Warriors roster, but instead of great wing depth, you just have D'Angelo Russell. The problem with that is a lack of defense. I guess my real takeaway here is that D'Lo's just going to need to go away for this team to succeed, and that's not any knock on D'Angelo Russell. If Stephen Curry was a lockdown defender, I would have no doubts about him on this team for the future, and I actually think it was a great move, but that's not the case. As for some free agents they could acquire, maybe a really old Paul Millsap would be willing to come off of the bench for a cheap contract. Allen Crabbe over the last few years has been so overpaid that it's overshadowed the fact that he's one of the best shooters in the NBA. Over the last 2 years with Brooklyn, he shot 38% on 8 attempts a game. And old as hell Goran Dragic could be willing to ring chase. Apparently Iggy wants back in Golden State, so that could happen. If Paul Millsap doesn't happen, Marvin Williams is a lesser option. E'Twaun Moore is a really good three-point shooter. Unfortunately, there isn't really any starting level small forwards available in this year's free agency. Maybe they could get one in the 2021 free agency, but Klay would most likely have to become a small forward, and you would just run a two guard like Allen Crabbe or E'Twaun Moore next to him. But I think the best game plan would be to trade D'Lo for Andre Drummond, or trade him for Robert Covington and some assets from Minnesota, which figures out that small forward problem, and then sign some of those guys that I recommended. There are a handful of older guys in the league who can still contribute and could want to ring chase, and there is a lot of underrated role players in this free agency class that you can probably get for cheap. But I want to end on this. If you can put at least a solid NBA roster around Stephen Curry, you can contend for a championship. He's done it before, and there's no reason to believe he can't do it again. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.